Get ready, America. Up next is the fastest growing podcast in the nation, the Sports Parade Magazine podcast, heard daily by tens of thousands, hosted by the one and only Mark Clark, the man with the New Orleans accent who gives it to you straight with no chaser. Damn, I love that Mark Clark. Give him a call, 713-553-6370. Email him, markclark@sportsparademagazine.com, or follow him on Twitter @MarksWords or @SportsParadeMag. Or listen via any phone. Simply dial 619-550-0516 and at the prompt number 4. There's no better way to advertise or hit your target market than with the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. Call 713-553-6370 for rates. And now, without further ado, the man, my main man, he's a bad man, Mark Clark.
Oh, thank you, baby. Welcome back to the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. It's one for Monday, April 1st, 2013. For the love of the game, baby, for the love of the game. And you saw that in full effect this weekend and throughout the week with all of the NCAA men's and women's basketball, March Madness. You saw how these collegiate players are just so into it. You know, so many times we get the pro players and they get the knock that it's just for the money. It's just for the money. Not so when you're talking about these collegiate players. They lay it all on the line. And we're going to talk about that and more on the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. But before we do that, we're going to talk about our sponsor for today's show, Low T Centers of the Greater Houston Area. That's right, Low T Centers of the Greater Houston Area. And you may say, what is a Low T Center? Well, it's for the fellas. Do you suffer from fatigue, a lack of energy, lack of strength, low motivation, weight gain, or irritability? If you suffer from any of those things, guess what? The Low T Centers may be your answer. It could be simply a case of low testosterone. And guess what? A simple 30-minute blood test can have the answers that you need. And if you need a shot, guess what? The benefits include improved muscle mass, boosted energy, weight loss, improved strength, increased bone density, decreased irritability, and the best yet, improved sexual desire. Guess what? You gotta love that. All you have to do is go to Low T Centers of Greater Houston Area on the internet or give them a call and make an appointment. 877-544-5698. That's 877-544-5698. Low T Centers of the Greater Houston Area, proud sponsor of the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. And when we start talking about it, April Fools, don't be a fool, because there were no fools when it came down to March Madness and the quest to get that brass ring in the Final Four and to be a champion. But before we get started with the men, let's talk about the women. The women, the legendary, and that's not to over accentuate what she's done, but Brittany Griner of Baylor, her career is over, just like that. That's why they call it March Madness, because just as soon as you're rolling, it can be over with one loss. And from the opening tip of the season in women's collegiate basketball, there was only one question. How do you stop Brittany Griner? How do you stop a force of nature? How do you stop a woman that's 6'8", that has all the post moves, the defensive moves, just dominating, that can slam and has done it over and over throughout her illustrious 4-year career? Well, guess what? Louisville, that's right, not the men, but the women. Louisville found the answer Sunday night, pulling off one of the biggest upsets in the history of the NCAA tournament. They beat them 82-81. And let's face it, the Baylor Bears, led by Brittany Griner, were the prohibitive favorites probably in the last 10 or 15 years to repeat as national champion. I mean, they just had it all. They had the talent and they had the biggest superstar on the block, the biggest superstar in college basketball, but it wasn't enough because Baylor, 34-2, lost the chance to defend the national championship. They didn't even make it to the Elite Eight or the Final Four. And as a soldier, as a champion that she is, Brittany Griner took all of it on herself. Just saying that she was sad. She was sad that she didn't do enough She took it upon herself. She didn't do enough to lift her team to the Elite Eight. Boy, it's rough. It's rough because it's not like the NBA. It's not like professional ball when you have a 5 or 7 game series, when you have a chance to bounce back from poor outings, when you have a chance to redeem yourselves. Even if you're down 3-0, you still have a chance. Not in the world of March Madness and men and women's collegiate sports, because it's won and it's done. You lose. You have a bad break. You get a bad injury. You get bad calls. You get in foul trouble. Whatever the case may be, you're going down. And that's exactly what happened to Brittany Griner. Our hats off to her. She's a great champ. I hope that she can infuse some life into the WNBA, which is sorely missing someone that needs someone of her stature to lift that league up, a player that can slam the ball, that can bounce the ball. She can be a transformative player in the way Michael Jordan was, in the way before him that Dr. J, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson wanted the NBA. And I hope she's able to lift the WNBA up, because she's going to be the number one pick without a doubt this summer and head us to the WNBA. But it's sad to see her career end like that. A champion likes to go out a champion. Unfortunately, it's just not going to happen this time. But she did a great job, but just had a bad game. And they had, not to take anything away from Louisville, they had a great defensive strategy. Because when you hold Brittany Griner to 14 points and 15 rebounds for a game, that's like nothing. Because you have a talent that can easily put up those numbers in one quarter, one half. She can easily put up those type of numbers. So they did what they had to do. And as invincible as the Lady Bears were, invincible, winning 32 games. And check this out, 74 of the 75 games that Brittany played in, they won. 74 of 75. And Louisville was a 24-point underdog in Vegas. 24 points. At the end of the day, this is what March Madness is about. The upsets. Everyone has a chance. And to quote an old cliche, on any given Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, in the world of March Madness, anything is possible. And Louisville, on the women's side, proved that as Brittany Griner's career comes to an end. But we're going to roll on with the Sports Parade Magazine podcast, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some more in the world of college basketball on this great edition of the Sports Parade Magazine podcast for Monday, April 1st. April Fools. Don't be a fool, baby. Don't be a fool.
What it do is your man Symbolis. The SABA checking in with Mark Clark in the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. Y'all go ahead and give him a call at 713-553-6370. Y'all hit me up at Symbolis.com. He give it to you straight up with no chaser. Just how I like my yak. Keeping up with the Joneses, so I gotta get paid. Fresh car, hood, and got my arms straight. I'm keeping up with the Joneses. A couple dollars in change. Bad chick on my hip, got it and I don't even know who they is. I never met them or hung out with their kids. Didn't get an invitation over the crib. Now that I think...
Get ready, America. Up next is the fastest growing podcast in the nation, the Sports Parade Magazine podcast, heard daily by tens of thousands, hosted by the one and only Mark Clark, the man with the New Orleans accent who gives it to you straight with no chaser. Damn, I love that Mark Clark. Give him a call, 713-553-6370. Email him, markclark@sportsparademagazine.com, or follow him on Twitter at markswords or at sportsparademag. Or listen via any phone. Simply dial 619-550-0516 and at the prompt number 4. There's no better way to advertise or hit your target market than with the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. Call 713-553-6370 for rates. And now, without further ado, the man, my main man, he's a bad man, Mark Clark.
And we're back from the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast for Monday, April 1st. When we left off, we talked about Brittany Griner and her career over. It's March Madness. But before we get to the men, let's talk about some NBA action because there's a fight in the West. A fight in the West for the final playoff berth. Right now, the Lakers are out. They're out. They're seeded number 9. Utah and Houston are still clinging on to hope. But I'll tell you what, you look at Houston, man. Coming down the pack. James Harden, your best player, out with a foot injury. It's like, man, come on. Can you sacrifice just a little bit and get out there? I mean, this goes to show you the difference between collegiate basketball and the pros. That passion, that intensity, that willingness to go through a wall to do whatever it takes. Houston better get it together because Kobe Bryant is going to go out on his sword. This guy had an ankle sprain that will keep most guys out like 2 to 3 weeks. He played the next game because he wanted that presence in the lineup. He wanted to be able to be out there. He also has a sprained foot, much like James Harden. But guess what? He still is out there, dropping 30, dropping 40. But it's not enough so far to get them over the hump. But he's trying. Houston Rockets, if you want to make that move, James Harden, if you want to take that step up from just being a good player to being elite to being a champion, you have to suck it up. At this time of year, everyone's going to have injuries. LaMarcus Aldridge went down just in the heat of the battle when Portland has a chance at the outside to sneak up. Dallas Mavericks, Dirk Nowitzki finally getting healthy. They're clinging to life. Even at number 10, they hope to move up into that 8th spot. On the east side, everything seems to be just about set. The big question remains is, will Derrick Rose suit up for Chicago? Chicago ended the long winning streak of the Miami Heat, and they're seen as the long-term alternative to the Heat in terms of challenging their dominance, not just in the East, but for the NBA crown as defending champions as the Heat are. But after coming off that knee injury, Rose is basically saying, the doctors are saying he's healthy. He's saying he's not healthy enough to play. He wants to be 100%. Guess what, Derrick Rose? When you're getting paid $20 million plus a year, it's time for you to get out there. Maybe you're not going to be 100%. But if your teammates, the Bulls, are able to beat and end the streak of the Miami Heat and have a winning record this season in the series against the Miami Heat, the creme de la creme, the arch rival, if they're able to do that without you and you're healthy enough after now maybe 9 months of rehabbing that torn ACL, rehabbing after surgery, it's time for you to take the step up. You have to overcome this mental block that you have about, which all injured players have about, man, I don't know if I'm quite ready. I don't know if I can do it. You have to get out there because you owe it to the fans, you owe it to yourself, but more importantly, you owe it to the teams to try your best, to do your best, to take that step up. So I'm hoping that he does come out and he does try and give it a go and play. Because right now, without him and a strong as possible Chicago Bulls team, it's going to be a cakewalk, at least on the east side. It's going to be a cakewalk for the Heat. They're not going to be challenged by the Brooklyn Nets. They're not going to be challenged by Carmelo Anthony and the New York Knicks. Carmelo Anthony is not an elite player. He's a big-time scorer, but he's not on the same breadth of a champion. And as long as he's in New York, I can guarantee you they're not going to be any challenge whatsoever to the Miami Heat. But we also have to give out our Fool of the Week award. Fool of the Week. And it goes to all of the national media that's criticizing Steve Alford for taking the UCLA Bruins basketball job. You know, UCLA is a program steeped in tradition. Just to name, you're talking about college basketball royalty. You're talking about the John Wooden legend. That program, that UCLA program. And even though Ben Holland was let go and took the team during his tenure to back-to-back Final Fours, 3 Final Fours, had much success, A lot of people said, you know what, for the level of talent that came through that program, he still didn't achieve. But the bigger issue, it seems to be, that I've been informed by some people that are close to the program and some alumni, is he simply did not recruit. Did not recruit from that LA market. Did not recruit from that local market. And guess what? If the alumni base wants to see local homegrown talent at UCLA, that's what you should do. You still have to win big time because after all, it's UCLA. But if you want to win like that, that's what you have to do. And it seems Ben Holland was more interested in being a national recruiting guru and giant and winning in that way. And even though he had great success, and many say he was rolled under the bus, I have to tend to agree with the alumni base, because when you're hired, you have to understand the type of program that you're going into. You have to understand the needs, the desires, and you have to understand the mentality of the base. And the base, after all, is the people that wind up paying your salary. And they're going to have your ultimate success or failure. So Ben Holland, I mean, it's really your fault that you got fired. If you didn't do everything that you needed to do and win the way they want you to win. But as far as all of the uproar, Steve Alford's terrible. He had just signed an agreement to stay at his school, then he wants to come to UCLA for more money, and this is not fair. This is the nature of the beast in college sports, not just basketball, but football. Money rules. He who has the goal rules. And guess what? If it means one and done for a player, and there's a pot full of gold at the end of the rainbow, and they're going to draft him, how do you deny that person the opportunity to live their dream, to live the American dream? After all, you're going to college to be able to take care of yourself. You're going to college to be able to afford a lifestyle. And if someone's offering you millions and you're 18, 19 years old and it's one and done and that's the rule, it's time for you to move on. Let's flip it to college coaches. Yes, is it fair that you make a commitment to a fan base or that you recruit kids and say, I'm going to be here, and then the next day you decide, guess what? They're offering more money, I'm gone. It is what it is. If you can get someone to put an offer on the table that buys out whatever penalty clause that you have in your current contract, plus pays you a handsome sum of money, it's time to move on. You can't cry about that. You can't talk about it's disrespectful. Get out of here. Get out of here with that foolishness. That's a joke. Everyone knows this is the game that we play. This is the life that we chose. And that's just the way it goes. It doesn't change. So calm down. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Hey, I'm Mark Clark, baby. I tell it to you straight like it is. I give it to you straight with no chaser. And we're going to take another break. And when we come back, we're going to break down March Madness on the men's side. And really one of the most horrific injuries that you've ever seen. Stay tuned for the Sports Parade Magazine podcast as we follow up with March Madness on the men's side.
What it do is your man Symbolis. The SAVA checking in with Mark Clark in the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. Y'all go ahead and give him a call at 713-553-6370. Y'all hit me up at Symbolis.com. He give it to you straight up with no chaser. Just how I like my yak. Keeping up with the Joneses, so I gotta get paid. Fresh car, hood, and got my arms straight. I'm keeping up with the Joneses. A couple dollars in change. Bad chick on my hip, got it made. And I don't even know who they is. I never met them or hung out with their kids. Get an invitation over the crib. Now that I think about it.
Get ready, America. Up next is the fastest growing podcast in the nation, the Sports Parade Magazine podcast, heard daily by tens of thousands, hosted by the one and only Mark Clark, the man with a New Orleans accent who gives it to you straight with no chaser. Damn, I love that Mark Clark. Give him a call. 713-553-6370. Email him, markclark@sportsparademagazine.com, or follow him on Twitter @MarksWords or @SportsParadeMag. Or listen via any phone. Simply dial 619-550-0516 and at the prompt number 4. There's no better way to advertise or hit your target market than with the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. Call 713-553-6370 for rates. And now, without further ado, the man, my main man, he's a bad man, Mark Clark.
Oh, get it, baby, get it. That's right, Mark Clark, the man that gives it to you straight with no chaser, baby. And welcome back to the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast on Monday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, baby. And when we left off, we were talking about everything in the world of collegiate ball, the NBA, but guess what? The men's side is up next, and man, you talk about this issue, this episode of the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast, and we talk about, for the love of the game, the difference between playing this game, high school and collegiate, and playing it at the pros. It's just a total different animal. It's just the passion, the emotion, just laying on the line, not for a dollar, but just for the love of the game. And boy, oh boy, not the way we expected, but that played out in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. A gruesome injury. Other than Joe Theismann being injured, and as a kid, I remember this game. I remember the Monday night game when Lawrence Taylor sacked Joe Theismann, and it'll stick with me forever. The images of his leg bones coming through the sock and coming through. It was just horrific as he just lay in pain, and the pain and agony, not just from Joe Theismann, but from Lawrence Taylor, realizing that, even though it was an accident, it was all in the play. Lawrence Taylor was just devastated. And I don't think Lawrence Taylor really ever got over that hit as well. But guess what? Louisville guard Kevin Ware suffered a similar horrifying injury. Very shocking, very unprepared, because no one hit him. The kid just went up, and when he came down, his leg literally exploded, splintered. 3 bones protruding through the leg, through the sock. Horrific pain, and you saw 40,000, 50,000 people that were just in dead silence, people crying. Rick Pitino, Louisville coach, wiping tears away. And my hat's off to, for every time I have a Fool of the Week, I have to give the really class act award to CBS. After showing this injury twice, this replay twice, they did not show this injury again. And the people at Lucas Oil Stadium, all of the athletic department officials, the conference officials, the NCAA officials, and the medical officials on hand did a terrific job of shielding this kid so you could not see the pain and agony or the gruesome nature of this injury, because everyone knew what it was. And to be able to not see it, it was very good, because it would just sicken you to your core. The right leg just bent. It just bent so awkwardly. It's something that you just don't see. He was taken immediately after they were able to stabilize him for surgery at Methodist Hospital in Indianapolis to repair the leg. And, they had to insert a rod and reset everything. And if he's able to come back, it'll be at least a year, probably more than that, because Sean Livingston, backup guard for the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was a star on the rise with the LA Clippers. I mean, just a superstar. He suffered a similar type injury, but his injury was more with the knee related, with the knee just exploded. The kneecap dislocated, it fell down. I mean, it was a similar type injury, and even though he's back, he's not the player that he once was. Ware is expected to remain in the hospital. The kid remain in Indianapolis at least until Tuesday. But I tell you what, it's the love of the game. This kid is writhing in pain, doesn't know what his future holds. The teammates in tears, the cheerleaders in tears, the coach, Rick Pitino, the fans, people across America. And this kid just says, win the game, win the game. The Atlanta native said, bring the game, bring this championship home back to Atlanta, my hometown. My hat's off to him. Atlanta, you got a hell of a kid, a hell of a homeboy in Kevin Ware, because this kid really, really went out there and did it. But at the time, Rick Pitino said he had no idea how they were going to be able to pull this game off. No idea how they were going to be able to win. Because when something like that happens early in the game, what do you say? What are the emotions? You're shocked. You're literally in shock. And then these kids, this is their friend, this is their teammate. Some of them go back to high school. It's your family. That's what's great about sports. It's about family, and this is your family. And for one of your family members to go through this, he didn't know how it was going to go. And Kevin just said over and over and over and over again, go out and win the game. Patino later said, I don't think we could have gone into the locker room with a loss after seeing that. This team was going to will itself to win because of Kevin Ware. I mean, I get choked up just talking about it. And Patino has been around the block over and over, a future Hall of Fame coach, over 30 years. And he said he's never seen a team respond like that to such devastation, particularly when that devastation occurred during the game. And the stage was so big as a ticket to the Final Four. He said, we just couldn't do it, said Russ Smith, our Peyton Silver, the point guard, our Golgi Dang, the power forward center. That game is finally taken off. And after the injury, which was a long, long layover in terms of getting him stabilized and getting him out to the hospital, it didn't look good. Duke came back, and it seemed like Duke was going to win this game, and Louisville Cardinals, even though they are the prohibitive favorite to be not only in the Final Four, to be the eventual champion, didn't seem like they were going to be able to bounce back from this type of devastation. But bounce back they did. They went on a 13-2 run, and a lot of it was fueled by that emotion of Kevin Ware telling them, just bring it home, just bring it home. The Cardinals 33-5, they played Wichita State in one semifinal in the Final Four. But even though Wichita State, the Shockers, are indeed the darlings, the Cinderellas, this is going to be about all about Louisville next week in Atlanta. It has to be. It just has to be. It's going to be about Louisville because so much that they went through to get there. And the storylines, this is the kid's hometown, Kevin Ware, coming back to Atlanta. The adversity, the emotion and the reality of what's happened to the teammate kind of hit home. Whether it be on a little bit of a down streak, because in the heat of the battle, they were able to get that momentum and get it going. So that remains to be seen. In the other semifinal, Michigan versus Syracuse. Michigan's come back from the days of the Fab Four, come back from all of the sanctions, all of the talk of a crooked program. They came back, and Syracuse, one of the dynamos, the giants of college basketball. It's going to be a great, great Final Four, but once again, it's going to come down to the emotion of Louisville, because Louisville has the tenacity. They have the athletes. They play the type of game with the pressure that's constantly put on you on defense, on offense, that if they're on that game, they simply cannot be beat. But that's going to be a big question, because it's one thing to overcome that emotion during that game and pull off the victory, but it's a wholly, entirely different ball game when you're talking about now sitting back a week and evaluating everything that's happening, going to the hospital to visit their fallen teammate. The reality that maybe his dreams are gone, but he wants you to carry on the dream, the greater dream for the team, because it's all about the team. Take the team to the title. Win it. Man, I tell you what, if I'm Wichita State and I'm Michigan and Syracuse, that's a whole lot to overcome, baby. A whole lot to overcome. But if anyone can do it, I have faith that they can. Once again, we want to thank you for joining this edition of the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. I've enjoyed it. It's been a blast. I'm going to give it to you straight with no chaser. As always, follow me on Twitter at MarksWorld or at Sports Parade Mag. I'm going to be tweeting. I'm going to be going back and forth. I'm going to be on a bit of a vacation. But when I get back, we're going to break down what happened in that Final Four and also get ready for the NBA playoffs. So remember, Don't be a fool on April Fools. We'll be right back at you.
What it do is your man Savalas.
Sports Parade Magazine.
The SABA checking in with Mark Clark in the Sports Parade Magazine podcast. Y'all go ahead and give him a call at 713-553-6370. Y'all hit me up at Savalas.com. He give it to you straight up with no chaser. Just how I like my yak. Keeping up with the Joneses, so I gotta get paid. Fresh car, hood, and got my arms straight. With the Joneses, a couple dollars in change. Bad chick on my hip, got it with the Joneses. And I don't even know who they is. I never met them or hung out with their kids. Didn't get an invitation over the crib. Now that I think about it, I don't know where they live.
Get ready, America. Up next is the fastest growing podcast in the nation. The Sports Parade Magazine podcast, heard daily by tens of thousands, hosted by the one and only Mark Clark, the man with a New Orleans accent who gives it to you straight with no chaser. Damn, I love that Mark Clark. Give him a call, 713-553-6370. Email him, markclark@sportsparademagazine.com, or follow him on Twitter at markswords, or at Sports Parade Mag, or listen via any phone. Simply dial 619-550-0516 and at the prompt number 4. There's no better way to advertise or hit your target market than with the Sports Parade Magazine Daily Podcast. Call 713-553-6370 for rates. And now, without further ado, the man, my main man, he's a bad man, Mark Clark.